All right, there was a disturbing video clip that the Rational National uh, put out from a video that he had seen, that he had forwarded on his channel, on his YouTube channel, and the and this is what I've been trying to say. Understand, the reality is that humans are violent. That violence is part of nature, and we must know when violence should be used. Now, when I talk about violence, I'm not talking simply about physical violence. I'm talking about wording yourself in such a way that there can be no if, ands, or buts about where we stand. In that wording, there must be put forward with every fiber an understanding that that ideology, which is basically uh, uh, being traitors to the peace, the ideology of peace, of equality, of actually having a real life and a future, of growing, where we are not anything more than animals living in a static nature, no matter what all the fancy gadgets that we use, no matter what we may learn on an intellectual level, okay, such as science and other stuff, if we do not have a working tandem between what our level of intelligence, as well as our emotions, and we know them to be working in conjunction, viewing through a lens of reality and not subjective ideas. Subjective meaning singular. When we see that, then that is what animals live in the present. They see to their needs and see to their safety. That is what animals do. Animals cannot think too far out, and they do not have the tools. And one of the most important tools that humans possess is the brain, and the human brain's ability to think beyond the present, beyond the minute, and envision through through observation, through study, through growth in mental and emotional intellect that working that works in conjunction, and to strengthen that work based on reality. Otherwise, whether you're on the left, whether you're in the center, whether you're on the right, you are simply living as animals. Clever animals, but animals nonetheless. In there will never be peace. There will always be those who are looking for the idea of safety and security, which only fosters their the fear. Animals fear. And fear is a primary driver for animals. If we wish to be human and we wish to evolve beyond the animal and be the potential that humans possess, the ability, each and every one of us possesses that ability, then we must let go of it. We must view in the reality, and we must encompass knowing that subjective, singular, or insular ideas does not serve us, because each and every one of us contributes to our own evolution or our own presence. And while we may be able to walking around and traveling around the planet is not, or even going out into space is not life. Life has to do with being able to connect with the wonderment and the excitement that we all experience as children, young children, where we see something bright, where wonder and excitement play a key role in how we envision what life could be. Right now, we do not have life. I keep stating this. We have static, insular, animalistic living. Even though we have all these clever gadgets and everything else, that's one. Even though we can speak and enunciate and bring our thoughts out, but that is still, if we cannot evolve, if we cannot wake up excited, looking to explore and see wonderment ahead of us, then we are no better than the animals. When we, as a society, are willingly pen ourselves in to what our potential is, making it stagnant and static, then we are no better than animals. There is no human potential there. There is no wonderment. There is no bright future. There will never be peace so long as we accept the idea of life rather than actually striving for life. Now, going back to the disturbing video, it was a bunch of conservatives and Republicans, and there was Steve Bannon there and so on and so forth. But there was a clip that David Dole showed where a woman stands up and she's basically doing the whole litany of fears. The people on the left want to restrict them, want to dictate to them, and so on and so forth. That we're the victims and so on and so forth. All the usual suspects. But one of the things that she did say, which was really disturbing, was that I've never wanted a dictator, but if we're gonna have a dictator, Trump is my guy. Well, that really, along with what Trump has said about using the people on the right to go against those who disagree with him. Then there's Steve King basically stating this exact same thing. Uh, that people like to call it fascism and so on and so on, but authoritarian dictatorship. But the simple truth is that the reason why they do that is because the left, the true left, and I'm not talking about the corporate Democrats. I'm not talking about those the centrists and all that. The true left is viewed by the right as cowards, as nothing more than sheep and followers. They view us in these abstract, very not even abstract really. They view us in a very insane, insular way. We're sheep, but we're also beasts, vicious beasts, who must be uh, who must be corralled and controlled to give them safety and security. While at the same time, they're destabilizing their safety and security, and they are situating themselves in a very linear, very cropped linear way that doesn't actually go forward. So this is why I say to those on the true left, you must be militant. You must use fear when it's called for. You must use violence when it's called for. You must be intolerant of the intolerable. This is why throughout all of history, and I mean all of history, it has always been the minority of right and right leaning, or those are who are the quote unquote moderates, who moderate and the moderate peacekeepers, who and peacekeeper is a misnomer because they're not keeping the peace. What they're doing is keeping the majority on a static plane, keeping us oppressed and suppressed, helping to create and enforce that prison that we all this prison and nightmare that we all live in. And so it's a heavy concept because that's part of that prison. You must understand that to have the majority be dictated, and I think we've seen it enough of it through media and the media push and they keep how the right keeps pushing for these violent, static, oppressive, and suppressive ways, and how they keep turning reality on its head. And the thing is this has been throughout all of history, going back to the beginning of human society to the present. It is always the minority with the biggest fears, the biggest everything, which is basically insane. It's a disease insane. It's a disease insane. It's disease and insanity. That's what it is. And the longer it goes on, the more the disease insanity spreads. The more the population because becomes hereditary. Each group has more children. The children are brought up in this exact same way. They keep spreading. They keep getting big, and there are rare occasions where those who come up from that sort of upbringing can break away, but those are extremely rare. And unfortunately, those on the left keep teaching teaching how to subsist and survive in that in this warped nightmare called society, and the standards, because there is no common value. There is no common value with them. They are insane. You cannot, and that is something that has also been shown. You cannot compromise. You cannot empathize. You cannot do anything with insane, the insane, because they have no concept of compromise. They have no concept of common values. Not even amongst themselves. Not even amongst themselves, because they will turn on those who discover a pathway, an understanding. That's how it works. It's a reality, and the right ignores facts, and the left, and the centrists, those on the and moderates. We ignore that reality, those facts, because we have a fantasy idea. Reality is fact, and fact is objective, and objective facts pushes us forward, makes us grow, gives us understanding, gives us ability for compassion, true empathy. We may, on the left, we have a lot of social justice issues that we want, but we can't do that if we just throw words at them, because uh, words do hurt. That whole old thing, sticks and stones can hurt me, but words will never. Well, the thing is words do. That is another fantasy. Words have power. Words change reality. And sticks and stones will break our bones, and words can actually hurt us, because they can change reality, and they can make it subjective and give us false ideas. I talked about it, my life experiences growing from childhood, and that gives me insight, because when I see the suffering of others, I can empathize because I suffered. I felt the pain. I continue, and thereby I can empathize. I can be compassionate, because I know it's greater than myself, that I need to be able to do that in order to be a caretaker, uh, to be obligated and responsible. However, at the same time, you know, there's a point where reality must assert itself, and when you see a wall, and that wall is that prison, and that prison has a bunch of insane, violent, prone, rabidness, then actions must be taken to curb it, and that requires a degree of militancy and a degree of intolerance. Because one thing that fear teaches, also along with being fearful of everything, it teaches us to stop and think, and also assess ourselves. It teaches empathy and compassion. because when you experience it yourself, you are more able to be compassionate because you can empathize. So, anyways, the whole I guess the whole point of this is the, you have to understand that fear out of control creates insanity, and insanity is is the bottom. There is no light there, and I'm not talking about the the stereotypical insane. I'm talking that generally all of us, and I keep saying this, almost all of us are living in this bubble of insanity because we cannot see reality, we cannot understand, because we have been put into this prison, this bubble, and it's one of our own making. And that's why we need to assert reality. That's why we need to understand that violence is not all bad, and it's not all encompassing, because at some times violence is necessary. And I'm not talking about going way wacko, because at the same time violence can be reactionary. It can come back, but in order to clear that, one needs to be able to state by their words and actions and show a level of evolution and striving to evolve and be the caretakers, the obligatory caretakers that show an understanding of true compassion and true empathy. And so, okay, it's still a concept that and the words aren't really there. I can't really. Well, anyways, thanks for your time.